I think yeah, it's good now, so we can zoom to our conversation. So yes, I welcome you all to our monthly Money Matters Convo, a platform where we have conversation about financial awareness and financial literacy, a platform where we engage experts within the financial literacy space and get to know what they are doing, how they are doing it, and get to learn some lessons and insights from them as well. And so today I have an amazing personality. You know, on Monthly Money Matters Convo, we don't just bring anyone, we bring experts, we bring people who are doing amazing stuff. And today I have an amazing personality in our midst, and we are going to talk about driving financial literacy education. But before we do that, let me share a brief about him, and then we will zoom into our conversation. So a minute. Let me try and do this in few minutes. Yes. So in few minutes, I'll Okay. Yes. So I'm trying to get the profile. I think I have it here. Then I will just read through them and then we start our conversation. A minute. Okay. Okay. I have a lot of them, so I just have to find the right one. Yeah. The right one, and then we zoom into. Yes, I have it now. Okay, so our guest today is an associate professor at the School of Financial Planning Law, University of Free State, and the founder and director of the Center for Financial Planning Studies. He is a fintech solution architect and a certified blockchain foundation developer. In January 2024, he joined AI 2030, an artificial intelligence think tank based in Washington, D.C., as an advisory board member. He holds a PhD and an MCOM in finance from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, a postgraduate diploma in financial planning from Nelson Mandela University, and a Bachelor of Education, Psychology from the University of Cape Coast. He is the author of Portfolio Management for Financial Advisors, Volume 1 and 2, Managing Editor of Frontiers in Financial Psychology, and co-editor of Perspectives in Financial Therapy. He's a certified financial planner, a member of the Financial Planning Institute of South Africa, the Global Association of Applied Behavioral Scientists, and a member of the Equity and Inclusion Committee of the Financial Therapy Association in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Professor Prince Sarpong. Prof, you are welcome to the Monthly Money Matters Convo.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you very much for having me. I look forward to a very engaging conversation, and yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Great. I've been following you for a number of years. You are doing amazing things. We also find ourselves in a mutual community,
Yeah.
the financial coaching community. the Financial Therapy Association, and just recently you were at the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share with us some experience you picked from that financial therapy conference?
Wow, it's a very amazing experience. I mean, that this would have been my third time attending the Financial Therapy Association conference. The first time was in 2022, but I attended virtually because that COVID situation, and there was quite a lot of backlog in terms of visa. So I decided to rather present virtually. It was quite amazing. It was a good experience having to present the African perspectives, the African experiences with respect to certain concepts or issues that are relevant or related to financial therapy. 2023 was in person, so I was in Charlotte in North Carolina. I spoke on the topic of African psychology and how it relates to financial therapy. So I've been working in that space for quite a while now. I would say maybe 2 years now,
Yeah.
where I started, this argument that a great deal of what is going on in financial therapy, or as we know it, has a lot of similarities with African psychology, and I felt that it's high time we started, really looking into African psychology, in a way as to enhance our understanding of financial therapy, not just for Africans, interestingly, but in fact, globally. So in 2023, my argument was that, when you look at the broader field of psychology, when we look at the so-called Western psychology, it focuses mainly on the cognitive, or it exposes us to better understand how our brains function, the cognitive aspects of things, which is great, and then when you look at the Eastern practices, um, the most popular being, say, meditation, it allowed us to learn that we need to find a harmony between our brain functioning and also our body in general. So one could say that, in fact, the Eastern psychology, in quotes, because, well, we don't really have these geographical distinctions per se, but one could possibly argue that the Eastern psychology built on or complement Western psychology in looking at the whole body, and not just the cognitive or the brain element alone, but our whole body, has an impact on our psychology. Now, my argument in bringing African psychology into the context was based on mainly the African philosophy of Ubuntu, which translates into I am because you are because we are. And essentially, my argument was that, well, African psychology also built on the Eastern psychology to say, well, it's not just the individual, so it's not just your brain function or how you think, as an individual, and it's not only just the whole body that matters when it comes to the psychology per se, in general, but also our connection with people, the element of interconnections that we have with each other as human beings play a major role in our mental well-being or mental health. So my argument in the 2023 financial therapy conference was that we need to start looking into, African psychology, start understanding that how we are connected with others also play a major role in our mental well-being, and interestingly, and also in our financial well-being. And in my presentation, I did touch on the fact that loneliness in United States and in the Western states countries is now considered to be a major risk element. You know, it's if not more risky, it's just as risky as smoking or excessive drinking. You know, so increasingly physicians have been encouraged to not just look at the just the physical well-being, but also to ask the quality of relationships that people have. And this draws us back then to what the African philosophy of Ubuntu says, that I am because you are, because we are. And therefore, you know, our the health of the relationships that we have with each other has a major role on our mental, well-being, but it also has a major role to play in our financial well-being. So when we're looking at financial therapy, financial coaching, financial psychology, we shouldn't ignore, the extent of interconnectivity that we have with other people. And this is what led me to in writing the book, well, in managing the book Financial Psychology, to commit a couple of sections to African psychology, to say we also need to look at well-being from the perspective of African psychology, because it plays a major role,
Yeah.
In how we see money, how we relate to money,
Yeah.
and our mental well-being altogether.
Great.
Yeah, so that was 2023. This year I was there as well. This year was phenomenal. We were in San Diego.
Yeah.
But this year I switched from African psychology to talk about online financial therapy, and of course touch on the, you know, quite interesting field of artificial intelligence and how it may augment the practices of financial, therapy. But we also had um, um, a panel discussion on being culturally attuned, to clients. So it's been quite an amazing
Great.
couple of years with the Financial Therapy Association.
Great. I think this year a course mate of mine who is in India also came for the conference, and she
Oh,
was
yes.
super.
So,
And
yes, we had
uh,
quite a few conversations. Yeah.
yeah, great,
Mhm.
great, great, great. This is an amazing community that we find ourselves in.
Absolutely.
And talking about African psychology, I believe as Africans we should put ourselves in a position where we are also telling our own story and how our story also fits into the bigger conversation.
Mm,
So
mm.
kudos on that book. I need to get a copy and try and
Good,
get into it. Yes.
eh? Sorry.
Yes. So my first question for you on the monthly money matters convo will be, give us an idea
Mm,
about how you grew up, and
mm.
was money conversation a norm growing up?
Um, well, I suppose my experience is just typical to any other or majority of Ghanaian experiences, where you don't know, obviously you know where the money comes from, but there isn't any discussions around money. But now as an adult, when I look back, I can't blame anyone. I can't blame my parents. I mean, nobody also taught them, you know. And so it's almost like the blind leading the blind, in that, I mean, looking back up, my parents, for example, I mean, phenomenal parents. They did their best. In fact, they're still doing their best, but they never had any guidance or training on finances, financial planning. Funny enough, even when I started practicing a couple of years back, when I spoke to my father about financial planning, he just wouldn't, it's almost like what they say, teaching an old dog a new trick. So growing up, it was just a concept like, well, money does not grow on trees, and the few that we learned from church, about the talent and the one who saved his got more. You know, I remember I think grade one, grade two, somewhere I was in I bet it was grade one. We had this poetry recital of a sort in our school, where I think my verse was something on Proverbs 6, verse 6, or something along that lines. I've forgotten my Bible verses, eh? That go to the end, consider
Yeah.
her ways and be wise. So, well,
Proverbs 6.
somehow, yeah, Proverbs 6, verse 6, I think. So
Yeah.
somehow we are um taught in a way to save and through our communities, and of course, save as much as you can. Don't be excessive in your spending, but it wasn't structured, and so you just pick it up from wherever you can pick it up from, and then you tag along with it.
Right, right. I remember growing up, my granddad, so I learned from two people, my father and my granddad.
Mm,
But then, just like you say, it wasn't structured. You watch them and you try to pick some lessons from them. So my
mm,
dad,
mm.
he made all the money, but because he couldn't plan his finances, after retirement, he was facing financial challenges. And that
Okay.
was a huge lesson for me.
Mm,
So
mm.
yeah, sometimes what we pick within our community growing up becomes something that we use to move on in life.
That's
Yes.
very true. That's very true.
Yeah. So what is your profession now? And how did you get into
Ooh.
your current profession?
My profession, if I start, it's gonna be, but I'm gonna be brief.
Yeah.
So now I'm a full-time academic. As you said earlier, I'm an associate professor at the University of the Free State. But I've had lots of professions before. I mean, I've been an accountant, I've been a financial planner, I've been a financial analyst. I would say I'm now at a point in life where I'm bringing everything I've practiced, together. And it's been a very phenomenal experience, actually, since coming to South Africa, because working as an accountant and a tax practitioner, I got to see the accounting side and the tax side of the world. Working as a financial planner, I think it was amazing, understanding especially concepts like estate planning, phenomenal, investment planning, that I think was quite eye-opening. Working as a financial analyst allowed me to have this exposure to the corporate environments, how the funds that we use in our investing are actually managed and run. So it gave me that exposure to the corporate side. And at a point, I decided to go in the entrepreneurial route, and that's when I started the Center for Financial Planning Studies. But eventually, I had to move back into academia whilst running the Center for Financial Planning Studies. So currently, I am an associate professor, as I said, with the School of Financial Planning Law at the University of the Free State. But also, I teach at the University of Cape Town Business School. So there I teach more financial risk management. So again, I wear quite a couple of different hats, but it's been very beneficial in having this well-rounded understanding of finance as it is, from both the corporate side and then also from the personal side. So every now and then you see me posting something in finance but not related to financial planning, but ultimately it has an impact on financial planning. Yeah, so I've practiced in the different setups within the financial services industry, and I'd say I'm happy to be at a point now where the plan is to bring them all together under one umbrella and then see how best I can expand on this. Of course, I've got my eyes back in Ghana. So hopefully from next year, we should be seeing something, some action in Ghana.
Great, great, great. And we are always here to give us a helping hand.
Absolutely, you are my list of calls, like
Yes,
people to call as soon as I have this, I kick this up and running. But yeah, no,
yeah, great,
absolutely, I'll give you a shout when I hit the ground running.
great, great, great. So, how does your current work
Mm.
fit into the bigger picture of financial literacy education?
Well, for starters, I'm a researcher now mostly, so my main focus has been on in the field of, financial psychology, but looking at it from a very different perspective. So one of the major issues in South Africa, for example, is black tax, and interestingly, we hadn't formalized it in the financial planning curriculum. And so there wasn't any structured approach to, dealing with black tax, and then I decided, so in my book, Financial Psychology, I dedicated a chapter to black tax and, how we can really look at it in a way that allows us to build a healthy relationship with money, but also to build wealth in a way that is more meaningful than the more self-centered approach of just focusing on yourself, because sometimes extending a bit of financial support to extended family has more psychological benefits than we give credit to. So when you're looking at your mental well-being, also I was having a conversation with a colleague who happens to be a director of the Financial Planning Institute of South Africa. And I asked her, have you noticed that even though we complain a lot about black tax, um, we forget that it has a lot of other benefits, because that uncle, that nephew, that brother who is going to or is expecting some money from you around month end will give you a call. So at least you have 5 or 6 people who will check on you. And we haven't quantified the mental benefits that we get when constantly our parents check on us. Yes, they need money, but they beat around the bush before they go to the point. But
Yeah.
because we get to talk to people on a regular basis, it keeps us grounded. It keeps us, you know, it gives us a sense of belongingness. And so we don't complain about loneliness, for example, like people in Western societies do.
Yeah.
And loneliness, at least, is not one of the pandemics that we experience, and it's not a health issue for us. And so there are those psychological benefits. Of course, we need to find a way to optimize the use of our scarce economic resource, which is money. So we don't we also have to be mindful of overextending ourselves, to make sure that we still build the wealth that we need to allow us to thrive, but in the process, where we can, we carry along others, basically lift others as we also rise. So that is what my work has been on. And I've got a project now that I'm looking to um do, which is what I'm gonna springboard into, put it into practice, where I'm now looking at us in the diaspora, Ghanaians, Nigerians, Africans in the diaspora, and you find that we've got quite an interesting um an interesting dynamics going on, which is an element of rootedness versus legacy. So that's how I put it. You know, a couple of close family members who are in Europe or the United States, especially those who have first generation Europeans or first generation Americans, like their kids are Americans or Europeans, and you find that they've got like 2 or 3 houses in Ghana.
Yeah.
And and then I had a conversation with one family member where my question was, so when do you plan to move into this house? Like, I haven't really thought about that yet. Okay. So when would your kids who are Europeans move into this house? And you like, there's no way they're going to go back to stay in Ghana. And so it was quite an interesting conversation. So there's a lot of allocation of resource in a way that it's almost it's almost automated. Well, you must build a home when you travel overseas. And
Yeah.
so sometimes you find that one spends a huge amount of monies into these developments, and then especially as you get integrated in these societies, you find that you probably are not going to really go
Yeah.
and live in this home
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Yeah.
So what I've been researching on now is basically looking at one, rootedness, where you don't want to lose your roots. I mean, you're a Ghanaian, you want to have attachment to your home country. You know, you have to have some project going on. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, you're looking at legacy, where you've got Ghanaian Americans. I mean, my kids, for example, are South Africans. So now you're torn between I need to build a legacy for my children who are South African, who will grow up here, who most likely will not relocate to Ghana. But I
Mhm.
need to also look at myself and my roots to say, but I don't want to also lose my roots. I have to have something. So within this context, how do you know, make optimal use of your limited resource in a way that brings you satisfaction and also hope? So I've adapted put your money where your heart is, and it's sort of an ongoing, project to
Great.
to to, to figure how do we, you know, craft financial advice in a way that suits this community. And you'd be amazed, there's nothing there in literature. There's nothing because when they write financial planning books, they're not looking at us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's up to us now to start, you know, creating models that fit our lifestyle. So it's been quite an interesting
Great. Great.
journey.
Yeah. Great. So I have a couple of friends who
Mm,
grew up in the US, but once in a while they used to come to Ghana. But
mm,
then, just like you said, most of these people are thinking, do I need to get a house in Ghana? Do I need to build in Ghana? And so some
mm.
of this tailored financial advice and education towards these people will be very beneficial. And
Mm,
these are
mm,
some of the people that I do engage with. And
mm,
they do share some thoughts with me. I also share some ideas with them. And
mm.
so coming out with a research that will tailor out a specific financial education to these people will be beneficial to them. Yeah, yeah. They can
Well,
build, then if they are building, so they can use that as an investment.
yeah,
Yeah, you can build an apartment and use it for investment. And when in
absolutely.
Ghana, you will get access to this building as
Yes,
well. So
yes.
it's
So
it's
so it's what I'm driving at is that it's not an either or. It's just I'm up looking at a way to optimally allocate your resource or your monies in a way that one, you don't get overstretched.
yeah,
And then two, you don't have fears, for the future of your children, and you don't also have this feeling of losing your rootedness. So
yeah,
you can find a middle ground where in a way you get the best of both worlds without really creating any excessive financial stress for yourself. Like I tell my friends, that the days of our fathers who traveled overseas is completely different from our times. The world has changed so much. And so it's almost extremely difficult to replicate their approach to even investing in
Yeah.
these times because we live in very different times and it requires a different approach from the approach that was even, in existence, say 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great. All right. So I we are back on the project and initiative, the
Mm,
Employee Financial Awareness and Financial Literacy Movement.
mm,
And we have movements now across 12 African countries.
mm.
And we have a movement in South Africa, but it
Awesome.
is not that active
Mm,
in
mm.
South Africa yet. So my next question is, how is financial literacy being taught in communities in South Africa? And what is the financial literacy rate like in South Africa since you have been there for
Mm.
years now?
I would say well, it depends on the demographics you're looking at, but for the most part, it's high on one side, but not high enough. And I mean, if countries like the United States still have, on average, low financial literacy, one can only imagine how it is like in South Africa. But the advantage I would say, having lived in Ghana and SA, is that the extent of advancement in the financial services sector in a way creates almost like an automated approach to financial literacy within certain spaces, which allows for one to at least know what he or she doesn't know. So, for example, financial planning is a major profession in South Africa. So a large number of people know who's a financial planner and probably has encountered one. So if I ever need guidance on anything, you almost know where to go to look for to seek advice. But also it has its own challenges and all. So I would say it's not where it should be. There's a lot of financial literacy advocates here in SA. I know quite a few of them who are doing phenomenal. It's not where it should be. I also tend to feel that sometimes there's an overstretch on financial literacy. I believe that we need to know where the buck stops when it comes to financial literacy, because look, some people just don't have the money, and what they need is not being told to save more when they have no money to even live on today. So, in as much as I am a very enthusiastic about financial literacy, I'm also a bit worried about the blanket approach to financial literacy where, well, because you've got a hammer, every problem looks like a nail,
Yeah.
especially in the poorer communities. Goodness, what they need is jobs and income.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
somebody who is barely surviving, handing them pamphlets on, investment options out there, it's really, it's very arrogant,
Yeah.
because all you're doing is simply making them feel miserable about their miserable situations. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
in my book, I touched on a bit on in the financial psychology book, I touched on the behavioral economics of poverty. And sometimes people just need some decent jobs and decent wages before you can tell them, to save. If
Yeah.
you're talking to someone who's barely surviving about investment products, if you put 50 rands a day, you could make X rands and you could be put 50 rands a day out of which monies.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, so,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so, So sometimes I feel that the whole drive towards financial literacy is good, but we should know where personal finance and personal guidance on finances and where the situation is a macroeconomic problem which falls outside of financial literacy.
Great, yeah, great. So one thing I tell people is if you don't have income coming in, there's no way you can plan your finances.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And so if the
Mm,
person is not making income, if the person does not have a decent economic life, you can't
yes.
go and start talking about savings and investments with
Mm,
the person. And so
absolutely,
you need
absolutely.
to first you need to empower them financially, economically empower them so they
Yes.
can start creating income. Once they start creating income, then you give them the blueprint on how to sustain that income. So it's
Yes,
really an
absolutely.
important aspect that you have touched on there. So now let's get a bit personal. Uh,
Mhm.
so this is my favorite part. So share with us three of your top money mistakes.
Hmm.
Three of your top money mistakes. Yeah.
Well, I make lots of money mistakes. I won't lie to you. We're gonna have to sit back and think about, what's my well, ugh, that was that. I didn't see that coming, eh? I'm trying to think what's my biggest money mistake? Hmm. I would say I don't make many mistakes, not because I don't make the mistakes, but I I live a lifestyle where I don't beat myself down for what I did in the past. And I don't necessarily, that's gonna be interesting coming from a professor of finance, but I don't live my life according to a budget. I live my life to to every day try as much as possible to have a fulfilling life, which means sometimes I definitely overspend and feel bad about it. But also tell myself, look, this is all part of life. And there are some times that I want an expensive whiskey, I'm going to buy it. And then I'm going to look at the next month and say, whew, I think I overstretched myself here. So I'm not doing A, B, C so that I catch up on what I should could do, and it allows me to learn and relearn. It allows me to live life as opposed to having a strict, you know, this is a budget and I'm not going beyond it. Look, if I'm going to blow it, I'll blow it. And then turn back and then see how do I, catch up so that it doesn't jeopardize my financial future. You know what I mean? So I would say I keep making financial mistakes. I probably still go on making financial mistakes, but I'm living life. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
living life so that I don't look back with regret on anything. You know, when I have a couple of friends coming in, I'm going to have an unplanned spending.
Yeah.
I'll look back and like, wow, that was fun. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
then the next month I'll say, boom, now that was quite hectic. You know what I mean? Let me try to squeeze myself a bit here to catch up on what is lost, and then look at, am I on track to achieving my financial goals? So I put life ahead of budgets and finances, and look, if I'm on my sick bed today, I want to have memories.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's
Yeah.
it and I have desensitized myself on certain things, especially with and I suppose my wife plays an interesting role in this where so at a point she was saying, look, your mind is still focused on funerals. How can you be
Yeah,
Because I mean, as we aging, our parents are aging, funerals can be super expensive in Ghana. And
yeah,
so at the point, okay, so you've got X amount stashed there waiting for death.
yeah,
And then the funny thing, I was traveling to Europe, and I'm like, when I go, I'm not really gonna waste money. Just gonna, just I'm just gonna stay in one place. I'm not. uh, so you could X amount of money is waiting for a funeral, and you touring Europe, but you're not going to spend. What, what type of life are you living? You know what I mean? It got
yeah,
me thinking, like, whoa. I mean, that's
yeah,
so. Well, you look for a balance, but also I would say I try to live life every day to enjoy my life,
yeah,
uh, with a bigger focus on my financial future, not jeopardizing it, but also today matters. My
yeah.
happiness today matters, and if I feel like something expensive, I'm not going to let your budget stop me. I'm going to do that, but just make sure I don't jeopardize my financial future. So I make lots of financial mistakes.
Great, great, great. About a month ago, I
Mm.
was having a conversation with some women in trade.
Mm.
And in the course of my presentation, I said, Unye sika dibi.
That's it.
And then all of them, they were looking at me. Financial coaches were saying this. But
Yes, yeah.
Unye sika dibi na ho
No,
sepel.
no.
If you get money, spend some.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the efforts you put in getting that money, you have to reward that effort.
You have
And
to
so,
reward
and
yourself.
so it's good when you are spending money, and if it is not going to hurt your financial future, you just have to
Yeah,
make sure you have plans in place.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So that's great. My next question will be, share with us your top three financial advice. Top three financial
Hmm.
advice.
Especially for a Ghanaian audience, I would say number one, estate planning.
Great.
It's you know, we need to break away from how our grandfathers used to live their lives. We need to know today. And I suppose that is what I'm always very happy about. I'll share a personal experience with you when um 2021-ish, yeah, thereabout, yeah, 2021, around June, when the COVID was quite hectic. That COVID got me bad. I promise you, I thought I was gonna die. And so it was in the middle of the night. My daughter, she was like 5 years old, had come to wake me that she wants to go to pee. So I took her to our bathroom, and somehow this thing just got me, like I just couldn't breathe. You know what I mean? And I suppose the only thing that came to my mind was, be a good girl. Your daddy loves you. One of those things when you're about to die, stuff that you say. And funny enough, well, I couldn't say it because first I couldn't breathe. I was literally gasping for breath. And the other thing that just came to my mind was Mayabia, because it's funny that when you have those near-death moments,
Yeah.
turns out time is quite different from how we see it. So in my mind, I thought it was like a 5 minute experience. Turns out it was less than 1 minute because my wife also came to the scene, and all that came to my mind was, okay, um at this point I'm gonna leave them a house. I'm gonna leave them something that still takes care of them whilst I'm away. And it
Yeah.
gave me that peace of mind that myopia, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was so I think that's what saved me actually, because then I stopped fighting, because now I'm fighting to breathe, and that kind of thing. It's really scary. But once that thought occurred to me that, okay, I've got a couple of insurance policies in place, you know, it's gonna kick in, and they'll lose the father, but they will not be destitute.
Yeah.
So knowing that after that. they met me, but I feel like I've done enough and stopped struggling to even breathe. Like if it's your time, it's your time. But
Yeah.
somehow I just passed out, and then when I opened my eyes, I was still here. So it was quite nice. But to me, it's always been the advice I give that you need to secure your legacy. You don't have to be 60 years before you start planning what you leave behind. So estate planning is critical, and risk management, because we are
Yeah.
building wealth, but for a young couple, for example, or a young parent, you wouldn't have accumulated that wealth that if you pass away today, you're leaving a huge amounts of monies for your, kids. But if you have proper life policies and endowment policies in place, that takes care of, what happens if you're disabled and you can't work anymore? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what happened to your kids when you pass away, accidentally before you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you leave behind? Now, but once you've got all these planned, it allows you to live life. I suppose one of the reasons why when I spend to enjoy myself and my life is that you also know that you've got the basics covered. So my number one advice is that you need to put X amount of your salaries away, but also consider what happens to you today. I mean, when you are disabled and you can't work, or when you pass away. And what I've noticed among a couple of my Ghanaian community is that, so I've got this friend, because he will be my son. You know what I mean? And if
Yeah.
you nyame mpemu. And
Yeah.
so that is young Crawford will be mine. So
Yeah.
the thing is, yes, we don't hope to die in a foreign land, but every day we bury lots of our brothers in foreign lands.
Yeah.
And those who are lucky to have a bit of money, maybe they are sent back home. So the question then becomes, if something happens now, is your financial future still secure?
Mm-hmm.
Are your children still going to be okay? You know what I mean? So, my biggest advice then is on estate planning, which is very, very important, but I found also very lacking in our communities. Risk management, especially on insurance. Oof, don't talk about life policy. Yeah, the whole person, you know what I mean? But it happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it's good to have these in place. And of course, retirement planning. Um, I think it's one of the things that is also lacking amongst I always, whenever I hear my friends are talking about, oh, when Mr. X retired and he's worked for so long now, the pension fee, and then I'm like, look, don't get to that point before you start crying. From
Yeah.
now, there are
Yeah.
lots of advices out there that can help you estimate exactly how much you're going to
Yeah.
be earning when you are 60 years old. And then ask yourself, would that be enough? If it's not enough, we can estimate how much you need to be saving on a monthly basis to achieve the lifestyle that you want. It's one of the things that we do in retirement planning. I teach it a lot in my classes, where Mr. X is 35 years old, he's contributing X amount to his retirement, estimate whether he will have enough to live on if he plans to live this lifestyle, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
don't wait till you are retired before you start complaining about your poor pension package. You know,
Yeah.
you start now, you can pretty much, so if I'm looking at a 60-year-old person in my profession and I see, whoa, this man is miserable, I'm going to be like him when I'm 60, unless I start doing something about it now.
Yeah.
So let it rather be a lesson to then figure, how do I prepare financially for, my retirement, as opposed to complaining about it when it's there. But then again, it's easier to complain and regret than actually take action and do something about it. So that would be my top three advice: estate planning, risk management, retirement planning.
Great, great, great. I love them. And so as part of the movement activities, we have dedicated an entire month for estate and gift planning activities. So in the month of October, we make a lot of noise about estate and gift planning. We do media engagement, we do community outreaches, we go to various schools to create awareness. On people should start writing their will. If you even have a mobile phone, you should write a will to cover that. Yeah, so it's really important. Now let's play a game. So I call it the money word play game. So I have a couple of words, about 15 of them. I will mention them and you respond to the words based on how you understand them. Yes, it should be as concise as possible. So I mentioned the word, you respond. And so my first word is money.
Do I respond by defining it?
Yes, what comes to mind when you hear money?
Cash.
Cash. Great. Marriage.
What comes to mind when I hear marriage? Consent, I suppose. Yeah.
Come again.
Consent.
Consent. Great. Great. Car.
Should I give one word, or I can give two words? Or
you can give two words. You can even explain it.
Okay. Well, then when it comes to marriage, I'd say mutual planning.
Mutual planning.
And consent, of course. Yeah.
Great. Car.
Oh, status.
Status. Great. Spending.
Spending. Satisfaction.
Okay. Needs.
Needs. What comes to mind when I think of needs? I'd say survival.
Survivor. Great. You spend our needs to survive. Great. Wants.
Wants. Real needs.
Come again.
Wants. The real needs. So
The real needs.
The real needs. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, I like that. Budgeting.
Budgeting. Life planning.
Life planning. Goals.
Legacy.
Legacy. Net worth.
Self-worth.
Wow. Cash flow.
Liquidity.
Liquidity. Employment benefits.
Employment benefits, what comes to mind? Work-life balance.
Okay. Investments.
Investments. Say wealth.
Wealth. Okay. Insurance.
Insurance. I'll say risk management.
Risks. Okay. Estate planning.
Estate planning. Legacy planning.
Okay. Education.
Growth.
Growth. Business.
Business, I would say diversified streams of income.
Okay. Financial independence.
Financial independence, the ultimate goal.
The ultimate goal. And then the last word, abundance.
Abundance. Abundance, I would say, what's abundance? Meaningful existence. Meaningful existence, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very
much
much
on the monthly Money Matters Convo. It has been an insightful section with you. And so your final words to our viewers and each and everyone who will get access to this conversation.
Well, I suppose my final words will go back to some of the words that we just discussed. I think ultimately we all work towards financial independence, but in the process, activities like budgeting should be focusing on life planning. You know, it's not reducing everything to money, strict rules, but life planning and needs and wants. I'd say your wants are actually just as important as your need, but don't live to survive. You know, live for the experiences, meaningful experiences, trying to achieve that meaningfulness that we strive for in life. Because if you have a stash of money, but you're not leading a meaningful life, you'll just be as financially depressed as, someone with no means of income. So looking at that balance where your money, your work brings meaning to your life is what we I suppose we all strive for. And allow yourself to be human. Don't beat yourself up too much when you go over your budget, but let it be part of the whole life experience. Learn from it, you know, grow from it, and then thrive even from your mistakes. So you don't constantly beat yourself down over mistakes, because you keep making them anyway. But look at the ultimate goal of financial independence, the ultimate goal of achieving your financial goals and making a meaningful impact in the world you live in your small way.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Prof. Sarpong. It has been an insightful conversation with you, and we want to thank you for availing yourself. Thank you for giving us your time to share this insight with us. Keep on inspiring change, keep on making a difference in the world. And we will be here looking out for you. We'll be here supporting you within this space. Let's all grow together. Let's all make sure we are championing financial education, financial literacy, and most importantly, financial therapy on the continent.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
And God bless you.
Thank you very much, Steven. Yeah, God bless you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Yeah, cheers. Bye.
Bye. All right. So this is where we end our section for today. Monthly Money Matters Convo. And so this was supposed to happen last week, Thursday, but we had a few emergencies, so we couldn't make it happen. So we decided to make it happen today. So watch out for August edition of the Monthly Money Matters Convo. So we meet again. Have a good evening. And don't forget, budgeting is life planning. It's not a restriction. And so budget for your money and make sure you are on your way to financial independence. Always remember, the goal is not more money, but financial independence. Bye-bye.